Okay, you guys, this is the last story time for the story of Dr. Dolittle. We're going to read the last couple chapters for the exciting conclusion. Thanks for joining us here at the Caribou Public Library. So this is our chapter book story time, and I am Miss Erin. We're reading In the Story of Dr. Dolittle by Hugh Lofting, and we're starting with the 20th chapter, and I believe it's the 20th and then the 21st, or the last chapter. The Fisherman's Town. Gently, then, very gently, the doctor woke the man up. But just at that moment, the match went out again, and the man thought that it was Ben Ali coming back, and he began to punch the doctor in the dark. But when John Dolittle told him who it was, and that he had his little nephew safe on his ship, the man was tremendously glad and said he was sorry that he had fought the doctor. He had not hurt him much, though, because it was too dark to punch properly. Then he gave the doctor a pinch of snuff. And the man told how the Barbary dragon had put him onto this rock and left him there when he wouldn't promise to become a pirate. And how he used to sleep down in this hole because there was no house on the rock to keep him warm. Then he said, "For 4 days I have had nothing to eat or drink. I have lived on snuff." "There you are," said Jip. "What did I tell you?" So they struck some more matches and made their way out through the passage into the daylight, and the doctor hurried the man down to the boat to get some soup. When the animals and the little boy saw the doctor and Jip coming back to the ship with a red-headed man, they began to cheer and yell and dance about the boat, and the swallows up above started whistling at the top of their voices, thousands and millions of them, to show that they too were glad that the boy's brave uncle had been found. The noise they had made was so great that sailors far out at sea thought that a terrible storm was coming. "Hark to that gale howling in the east," they said. And Jip was awfully proud of himself, though he tried hard not to look conceited. When Dab-Dab came to him and said, "Jip, I had no idea you were so clever," he just tossed his head and answered, "Oh, that's nothing special, but it takes a dog to find a man, you know. Birds are no good for a game like that." Then the doctor asked the red-haired fisherman where his home was. When he had told him, the doctor asked the swallows to guide the ship there first. When they had come to the land that the man had spoken of, they saw a little fishing town at the foot of a rocky mountain, and the man pointed out the house where he lived. While they were letting down the anchor, the little boy's mother, who was also the man's sister, came running down to the shore to meet them, laughing and crying at the same time. She had been sitting on a hill for 20 days, watching the sea and waiting for them to return. And she kissed the doctor many times so that he giggled and blushed like a schoolgirl. She tried to kiss Jip, too, but he ran away and hid inside the ship. "It's a silly business, kissing," he said. "I don't hold by it. Let her go and kiss Gub-Gub if she must kiss something." The fisherman and his sister didn't want the doctor to go away again in a hurry. They begged him to spend a few days with them. So John Dolittle and his animals had to stay at their house a whole Saturday and Sunday and half of Monday. And all the little boys of the fishing village went down to the beach and pointed at the great ship anchored there and said to one another in whispers, "Look, there was a pirate ship, Ben Ali's, the most terrible pirate that ever sailed the 7 seas. That old gentleman with the high hat who stayed up at the Mrs. Trevelyan's, he took the ship away from the Barbary dragon and made him into a farmer. Who'd have thought of him so gentle-like and all. Look at the great red sails. Isn't she the wicked-looking ship? And fast. My!" All those 2 days and a half that the doctor stayed at the little fishing town, the people kept asking him out to teas and luncheons and dinners and parties. All the ladies sent him boxes of flowers and candies, and the village band played tunes under his window every night. At last the doctor said, "Good people, I must go home now. You really have been most kind. I shall always remember it. But I must go home, for I have things to do." Then, just as the doctor was about to leave, the mayor of the town came down the street, and a lot of other people in grand clothes with him. And the mayor stopped before the house where the doctor was living, and everybody in the village gathered around to see what was going to happen. After 6 page boys had blown on shining trumpets to make the people stop talking, the doctor came out onto the steps, and the mayor spoke. "Dr. John Dolittle," he said, "it is a great pleasure for me to present to the man who rid the seas of the dragon of Barbary this little token from the grateful people of our worthy town." And the mayor took from his pocket a little tissue paper packet, and opening it, he handed to the doctor a perfectly beautiful watch with real diamonds in the back. Then the mayor pulled out of his pocket a still larger parcel and said, "Where is the dog?" Then everybody started to hunt for Jip, and at last Dab-Dab found him on the other side of the village in a stable yard, where all the dogs of the countryside were standing around him, speechless with admiration and respect. When Jip was brought to the doctor's side, the mayor opened the larger parcel, and inside was a dog collar made of solid gold, and a great murmur of wonder went up from the village folk as the mayor bent down and fastened it around the dog's neck with his own hands. For written on the collar in big letters were these words, "Jip, the cleverest dog in the world." Then the whole crowd moved down to the beach to see them off, and after the red-haired fisherman and his sister and the little boy had thanked the doctor and his dog over and over and over again, the great swift ship with the red sails was turned once more toward Puddleby, and they sailed out to sea while the village band played music on the shore. The last chapter is called Home Again. March winds had come and gone, April's showers were over, May's buds had opened into flower, and the June sun was shining on the pleasant fields when John Dolittle at last got back to his own country. But he did not yet go home to Puddleby. First, he went traveling through the land with the push-me-pull-you in a gypsy wagon, stopping at all the country fairs. And there, with the acrobats on one side of them and the Punch and Judy show on the other, they would hang out a big sign which read, "Come and see the marvelous two-headed animal from the jungles of Africa. Admission 6 pence." And the push-me-pull-you would stay inside the wagon, while the other animals would lie about underneath. The doctor sat in a chair in front, taking the 6 pences and smiling on the people as they went in. And Dab-Dab was kept busy all the time scolding him because he would let the children in for nothing when she wasn't looking. The menagerie keepers and circus men came and asked the doctor to sell them the strange creature, saying that they would pay a tremendous lot of money for him. But the doctor always shook his head and said, "No, the push-me-pull-you shall never be shut up in a cage. He shall be free always to come and go, like you and me." Many curious sights and happenings they saw in this wandering life, but they all seemed quite ordinary after the great things that they had seen and done in foreign lands. Here's a picture of the fair that they sat, the doctor sitting in front of. Two-headed animal. There's their sign on the side of their wagon. It was very interesting at first being part of a circus, but after a few weeks they all got dreadfully tired of it, and the doctor and all of them were longing to go home. But so many people came flocking to the little wagon and paid the 6 pence to go inside and see the push-me-pull-you that very soon the doctor was able to give up being a showman. One fine day, when the hollyhocks were in full bloom, he came back to Puddleby a rich man, to live in the little house with the big garden. And the old lame horse in the stable was glad to see him, and so were the swallows, who had already built their nests under the eaves of his roof, and had young ones. And Dab-Dab was glad, too, to get back to the house she knew so well, although there was a terrible lot of dusting to be done, with cobwebs everywhere. And after Jip had gone and shown his golden collar to the conceited collie next door, he came back and began running around the garden like a crazy thing, looking for the bones that he had buried long ago, and chasing the rats out of the tool shed, while Gub-Gub dug up a horseradish which had grown 3 feet high in the corner by the garden wall. Here's Jip running around the garden. The doctor went and saw the sailor who had lent him the boat, and he bought 2 new ships for him and a rubber doll for his baby, and he paid the grocer for the food that he had lent him for the journey to Africa. He bought another piano and put the white mice back in it because they said the bureau drawer was drafty. Even when the doctor had filled the old money box on the dresser shelf, he still had a lot of money left, and he had to get 3 more money boxes, just as big, to put the rest in. Money, he said, is a terrible nuisance, but it's nice not to have to worry. Yes, said Dab-Dab, who was toasting muffins for his tea. It is indeed. And when the winter came again and the snow flew against the kitchen window, the doctor and his animals would sit around the big warm fire after supper. He would read aloud to them out of his books. But far away in Africa, where the monkeys chattered in the palm trees before they went to bed under the big yellow moon, they would say to one another, I wonder what that good man's doing now, over there in England. Do you think he'll ever come back? Polynesia would squawk out from the vines, I think he will. I guess he will. I hope he will. And then the crocodile would grunt up at them from the black mud of the river. I'm sure he will. Go to sleep. The end. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed reading about Dr. Dolittle. Thanks again for joining us. We'll get started on a new book next time. Have a great night. Bye.